Hey, this is Coach Kinsey Shae for Gen-x-ploration. It's a solo day. Bobby's not able to make it. So I wanted to seize the opportunity to speak to you, Gen X women. So I want to really empower Gen X women to thrive, not just survive. And I really think there's 7 key ways to do that. So stay till the end and I'll have an empowering message at the end. And I please put your what you resonate with, what you do to help in these areas, because this is a community where we can learn from one another and do life together, doing intentional life together to be, love, and grow together. So, like, subscribe, do all that fun jazz. But in this season, with Gen Xers, I really feel we are in a state of overwhelm and exhaustion. We're in this like ADHD life of like, what do I need to do now? We often get distracted. We often don't know what is urgent, what is not, what's important, what I need to do now. So, one, I think one key way to empower us Gen X women is self care. But before I get into that self-care, and please, I know self-care is all over social media, all over, but I have a little twist today about that. But before we get into that, I really want to speak to the pain point of I found a couple articles that you can read. This is, from the 2020 era. And I think this is a time where we really took stock of what we were doing. And we knew inside that, I talked about this last week with that, that achy feeling that there's more. So I think it was a catalyst point. So I got, articles that spoke upon that, where, you know, Generation X just feel they're in a state of failure. They're in a state of overwhelm that, you know, just read this. We're exhausted. We're the sandwich generation. We're dealing with our core belief systems of that we have to be there for everybody and that we can't ask for help and that we're independent. Ladies, put how you're feeling down. What's your struggle? What did you notice why you feel so disempowered? Because this is a time for unity, community, so that we can have collaboration for accountability to uplevel our life. So self-care, I quite often speaking about, we feel like the sandwich we're dealing with um many generations, whether it be our kids, our grandkids, whether we're dealing with many generations in the workplace, where we feel very misunderstood, um, where we feel that we have to be responsible solely for our parents if they need, care. There's a lot of pressures that get in the way of our prosperity and our happiness. So I like to think of that as the plate of life, all of those things that we just put on our plate and we have no filter. And it's like being in this nonstop buffet where there's just heaps of food, circumstances, events, tasks, everything on that plate of life, that it's very overwhelming. But I came across this that's trending right now. It's called the dopamine menu. And I really loved the principle of it. You kind of couple your things you can do for yourself to get that feel good, that dopamine high, if you will. They categorize it in their starters, main, sides, and desserts, where we can replenish our soul, not by depleting our soul, by just focusing on what we need to do. This is a way to shift focus and look at that dopamine menu. This is perfect because it's Halloween today as I record this. And the, we're in fall. So we're in the fall season. So what little dopamine hits? What are your starters? Is it wearing a nice little cozy sweater, having a nice cup of tea, having some hot cider? What makes your heart happy? Mains might be themed fall things, having a bonfire, or just going for a walk in nature, just being by yourself and looking at the turning leaves in your life. These are dopamine hits that make you feel good. And sides are kind of like starters. What little things can you do? Do you like baking seasonal cookies? Little gift packs. These aren't always things you have to do. These are things, the intention here, these are things that light your soul up. They make your heart happy. And dessert things are, those things that really light you up. Little things that really light you up. It could be, you know, um, just reading a book nestled up in the blanket, if that really makes your heart on fire. Having you know, a pumpkin scent massage. Having little things that will give you dopamine so that you can digest that plate of life. I hope this resonates with you. Because when I looked at it, like, I can put a dopamine menu on my circumstances, my plate of life, so that I can digest it with ease and grace. That really resonated with me, and I hope that resonates with you. Number 2 is setting boundaries. Quite often, um, we don't even know what our boundaries are. We're in that people pleasing, what do I do next? We're just in that autopilot of getting stuff done. But when we focus on our values, our true values, not organizational values, like, if you're in a religion, or, if you're in some sort of, group. I'm talking about not transposing other people's values for yourself. Really doing a self inventory of what your true values are. Not what people told you your values are, because those once we figure out what those values are, it gives us bumper rails. Those are our boundaries, and having a vision for ourselves will keep us in forward momentum. So what are your values? Set those boundaries. So 3 is seek support. What does that look like for you? Do you have a tendency to just stay at home and ruminate over everything that you didn't get done? Everything that you should have got done? Seeking support is, I mean, if you're a mama, taking care of your parents, seek support. Get a support group. If you have a struggle in your life, seek support. Get into community, because it takes a tribe to do life. We can't just expect to be independent and do everything our own, because it's we're going to run out of gas, my friends. So whether, it's coaching, whether it's counseling, whether it's a support group, or you have a sisterhood of friends where you meet each week just to vent and really, be supportive towards one another, because it takes unity, my friends. 4, reevaluate your priorities. When Quite often, I just get in this state of overwhelm. I get into this ADHD-ish type of um just I get distracted by the what's next type of thing, and I'm just very reactive on what needs to be done. I don't really categorize it like what's urgent, what's important but not urgent, and things that are our distractions, what's not important and what's not urgent. Like watching that, that Netflix special, it's not, quite often our distractions is what we schedule into our lives. So, doing this is reevaluating your priorities. It's, reflecting and setting intention to act, assess, and adjust. You leverage what you assess and you adjust it and you rinse and repeat. Remember, action, it's not ruminating, it's action, access, and adjust. And number 5, ladies, ladies, how often do we honor and celebrate ourselves for what we do, how we be? We often just looked at what needs to be done for everybody else, that sandwich type of feeling where you feel like everything is just penetrating your space, where you can't think, you can't speak, and you get in stagnation of autopilot. So, really taking like a daily inventory to honor and celebrate everything that you have done. And getting out of that task oriented of what's next. Oh, I have to get this, and done. Because really honoring and celebrating, and this is difficult for Gen X women because we're taught very much to be independent, to rely solely on ourselves. If you resonate with this or you have a different take on this, I want to hear it. Please let yourself be heard in the comments. So honor and celebrate yourself. And 6 is really, practicing mindfulness. And I know this gets, everybody and their dog is talking about mindfulness. But mindfulness is purely and simply just means being at one with yourself, giving yourself some me time. It's not always just sitting with cross leg and, emptying your mind and just being there. Sometimes it's walking in nature, just being with yourself to reflect, to set intention for your life, for your day, for your week, for your month, for year 1, year 5. It's just giving yourself a safe space to be. So whether mindfulness is meditation, whether it's guided um, meditation, whether it's vision work, whether it's somatic exercises, whether it is, I love to color and focus on an affirmation that it's or a verse that speaks to me for that week, because we get out of that, logical thinking, that top down thinking. We get out of that emotional thinking where it's bottom up. We get into that horizontal where we just be and we allow things to filter in with ease and grace. So coloring, focusing on the word, whatever like lights you up, to be mindful, to reflect and set intention for your life, to up level your life, to empower your life so that you can thrive, not just survive. So number 7 is building resilience. This is also, I talk a lot about self inventory, and I do this a lot with my clients, because our patterns if we start really looking at those patterns of, catalysts of when we, um, because we have a tendency to go into hyperactivity where we're just checkboxing, we're reacting, we get into that fight or flight, like this needs to get done, and we burn ourselves out. We have the candle lit at both ends. Or we get into that numbing out stage where, we're doing distractive activities not to feel. Whether it could look like except, eating comfort foods to excess, um, shopping to excess, um, numbing out, just watching TV. And I'm not saying there aren't places where numbing out is important, but if your two things is to be hyperactive or numbing out, hypoactive, you don't build your resilience window. It kind of, when you focus on, the things that light you up, to keep you in action, to keep you assessing your life and adjusting and honoring and celebrating yourself. It opens that resilience window. It's a self responsibility, my friends. So, empowerment it's not just about surviving, it's about thriving, my Gen X sisters. Let's set intention to a non negotiable intention to fill our cup, to do self care, to navigate that plate of life with a dopamine themed menu. What is your starters? What's your main? What's your sides? What's your desserts? The things that light you up that you can sprinkle in this season. Let's set boundaries and really look at our values to create those bumper rails to up level our life, because this will give us direction to call in and seek support in unity and community so that we can find accountability in a circle, a sisterhood. Let's reevaluate our priorities. Let's act, assess, and adjust by intention. Really reflect on your intention. And let's honor and celebrate ourselves. Getting out of the constructs of our minds of what needs to be done, but what have I done? Because on a day to day basis, we are multitasking, we are getting things done, and sitting down with a nice cup of apple cider, getting that little dopamine hit of, oh my gosh, I got this done. I did this for myself. It's important. Let's practice mindfulness, whatever that looks for you. Getting into that horizontal way of processing, not the logical, not the emotional. They're all key ways, but that when we start with a logical mind, we lose out on our creative self. When we look at just the emotional, when we anchor to that, we lose sight of our logical mind. Doing a horizontal way of thinking is allowing yourself to just be. And most importantly, let's build resilience, my sisters. This requires looking at your resilience muscle, limiting that fight or flight tendency that we have to do everything. All of those that coping mechanisms, that we just have to be in action, or that numbing out type of sensation, whether it's, you know, shopping, whether it's excessively working out, whether it's anything that distracts you from the actual core things that we should be focusing on, that is a numbing mechanism. It's pattern work. It is an opportunity for you to up-level your life and grow. Because empowerment is not about surviving. It's about thriving. It's about, we put on these lenses of life and we get hyper focused on what we need to do and how we can be there for everybody else. It's allowing us permission to take off those lenses and look through a life through the lens of your heart space, your intuitive space, to light yourself on fire, to grow. So let's do self-care together, the non-negotiable stuff, to navigate your plate of life. Sprinkle in that dopamine menu to digest it. Let's set boundaries and really focus on our values. Really focus on our values to get to the next version of yourself. Let's seek support in unity and community so that we can have accountability to be the best we can be. Let's reevaluate our priorities, to reflect, to set intention, to act, assess, and adjust. Let's honor and celebrate ourselves for doing the best that we can, that we don't have to be Miss Independent all the time, that we don't have to not look at all the things that we have done. Celebrate those things. Take a moment, take a pause, take a beat. Let's practice mindfulness, being at one with yourself, to give yourself peace, ease, and grace. Let's build resilience together, my friends, so that we can get through the lens and have faith through our heart space. So I hope you have loved this week's Empowering Gen X Women to Thrive, Not Just Survive, and the 7 key takeaways to talk about empowering yourself. And gentlemen, just because Bobby wasn't here this week, we can expound upon this, but I really, since he wasn't able to be here today, I wanted to take a moment to speak to the women, that it's our self-responsibility to look in the mirror, to thrive, not just survive. So like, subscribe, do all that fun jazz. Next week, Bobby and I will be here for some more content. If you have questions, or if you have topics that you would like us to expound upon, please put those in the comments, because we are doing this from our heart to your hearts. Light, love, and gratitude. And I will see you next week. And remember, my friends, have faith. I believe in you. Until next week.